US and allies say they want to find a diplomatic solution for Ukraine. On Friday, February 11th, US President Joe Biden, leaders of Western countries, the European Union, and the North Atlantic Alliance expressed their desire to find a diplomatic solution to the situation around Ukraine. This is reported in a press release published on the White House website following a transatlantic video conference. They expressed their desire for a diplomatic solution to the crisis and discussed recent contacts with Russia in multiple formats, the document said. In addition, the talk recognized the importance of coordinated efforts to deter Russian aggression against Ukraine, including the imposition of sanctions in case of military escalation, and the strengthening of NATO's eastern flank. They also agreed to continue close consultations within NATO, the EU, the OSCE, and the UN. In addition to the American leader, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, European Council President Charles Michel, French President Emmanuel Macron, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi, NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg, Polish President Andrzej Duda, Romanian President Klaus Iohannis, and British Prime Minister Boris Johnson participated in the conversation. The day before, FRG Chancellor announced that Europe is ready for a serious dialogue with Russia on security issues. He also noted that Moscow should not underestimate the solidarity and determination of its NATO allies. The US and a number of European countries have recently expressed concern about Russia's allegedly intensifying aggressive actions against Ukraine. Moscow has repeatedly denied such accusations, saying that it does not threaten anyone, while such statements are used as a pretext to deploy as much NATO military equipment as possible near Russia's borders. On January 28, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said that Russia was not going to start a war with Ukraine, while Western countries and the United States were hysterically developing the topic of Russia threatening Ukraine instead of forcing Ukraine to implement the Minsk agreements. US intends to withdraw OSCE observers from Ukraine. Washington is going to withdraw its observers from the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, OSCE, mission from the territory of the country amid the escalating situation around Ukraine. This was reported by CNN on Friday, February 11th, citing sources. In addition, it said, the U.S. administration is currently considering further downsizing the U.S. embassy in Kyiv based on evidence that Russia may attack Ukraine before the Olympics end next week. Earlier in the day, Biden warned Americans in Ukraine of the danger and urged them to leave the country. He also stressed his reluctance to send troops to rescue U.S. citizens fleeing Ukraine. The State Department made a similar statement. At the end of January, the U.S. Embassy in Kyiv recommended its citizens to leave the territory of Ukraine. The diplomatic mission stressed that this was due to the unpredictable security situation. Shortly before that, the USA had initiated the voluntary departure of some U.S. diplomats, staff, and family members from the territory of Ukraine. At the same time, the State Department advised U.S. citizens not to travel to Russia due to persisting tensions on the Russian-Ukrainian border. The US and EU countries have recently expressed concern about Russia's allegedly intensifying aggressive actions against Ukraine. Moscow has repeatedly denied such accusations, stating that it does not threaten anyone. The Russian side stressed that such accusations were used as a pretext to deploy as much NATO military equipment as possible near Russia's borders. On January 28, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said that Russia was not going to start a war with Ukraine, while Western countries and the United States were hysterically developing the topic of Russia threatening Ukraine instead of forcing Ukraine to implement the Minsk agreements. The US says Russia may invade Ukraine during the Olympics. Washington has information about a possible Russian invasion of Ukraine as early as next week during the Beijing Olympics. This was announced Friday, February 11th, during a briefing at the White House by Jake Sullivan, National Security Advisor to the President of the United States. The briefing was televised by CNBC. Despite speculation that it may not happen until after the Olympics, I will be clear that it could happen during the Olympics as well, he stressed. At the same time, Jake Sullivan explained that the United States does not have confidence that Putin has made a decision to start an invasion of Ukraine. As noted by the advisor to the American president, Moscow is able to launch a major military operation against Kiev on any day, and, if it happens, it will probably start with aerial bombing and missile attacks in which civilians may die, and then will be followed by a ground operation. However, Jake Sullivan refused to cite intelligence. According to him, the U.S. continues to reduce the number of personnel at the U.S. Embassy in Kiev. We call on all American citizens who remain in Ukraine to leave the country immediately. At this point, we want to be very clear. Any American who is in Ukraine should leave as soon as possible within the next 24 to 48 hours, Sullivan noted. Earlier in the day, U.S. President Joe Biden warned Americans in Ukraine of the dangers and urged them to leave the country. He also stressed his reluctance to send troops to rescue U.S. citizens fleeing Ukraine. The State Department made a similar statement. The U.S. and EU countries have recently been expressing concern about Russia's allegedly intensifying aggressive actions against Ukraine. Moscow has repeatedly denied such accusations, stating that it does not threaten anyone. The Russian side stressed that such accusations are used as a pretext to deploy as much NATO military equipment as possible near Russia's borders. On February 5, Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova said that speculations about Russia's invasion of Ukraine were a crime against the planet and democracy.